Devastation in Dexter. A tornado tearing apart an entire town. Homes completely destroyed, trees uprooted, and cars turned upside down. Amazingly, though, everyone has survived it. And now you take a live look at just one of the many spots damaged by the severe storms of late this afternoon and early this evening. Tonight, all is calm, save for the train that is rolling behind me, but so much work here needs to be done. Good evening. Coming to you live from Dexter, I'm Devin Skillion.
And I'm Chuck Gaetican. Devin, we've tracked all of the storm reports. We had 3 tornadoes today in southeast Michigan. I'll show you where they were and what's left on 4 Live radar coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Chuck, we're coming to you from the Dexter Mill, less than a mile from downtown Dexter. You can see behind me, in fact, that's the only sign of anything that's normal behind me. The train is moving behind, but this building brought down an enormous steel crate here that I couldn't even begin to move, pushed down beside me. Trees down all over the place. Chuck knows this from chasing storms over the years. There's a smell that comes with really bad tornadoes like this. It's the smell of split timber and pine needles, and it permeates most of this very dense neighborhood. Usually dense. Tonight you can't see anything except for a few flickers of candles and flashlights in the windows here, and some people have lost everything. Our Rod Maloney talked this evening with a family that headed down into the basement, and when they came up, pretty much everything was gone. Let's get to Rod now live. Rod?
Yes, Devin, you know, there's roofing material everywhere you go. This is a piece of a commercial building's roof that was right here. But to get an idea how strong these winds were, take a look at the side of this trailer. We just happened on this. Look at this. This piece of roofing just slammed right into the side of this trailer. The winds were powerful and the damage was amazing. This frightening scene on Noble Drive in Dexter, just 1 block off of Dexter Ann Arbor Road. That's the town's main drag. They say here the tornado looped around the neighborhood, blasted this street. There's nothing left of this corner home. The houses next door smashed, the glass shattered, a car picked up and tossed around like a matchbox. We talked with neighbor Bob Breakult in what was left of his garage, and he tells the tale of going to rescue his neighbors down the street from this pile of rubble.
Started yelling in the back door, and they responded, but they wouldn't come out. So we climbed in the window, and they were standing in the stairwell, and he wanted to go upstairs, but there's no upstairs left.
His neighbor James Boynton in shock, picking up the pieces.
I have no idea, man. I'm just, you know, my van's still in the drive or still in the garage. It doesn't work. There's my car over there. There's neighbors' houses that have chairs in the windows. I mean, you know, find a place to sleep tonight, find the next thing tomorrow.
Fire officials told Local 4 no one was hurt, and can you believe it? Look at the size of this tree that just barely missed the house. I'm 6 feet tall. Check out the size of this root ball. There was some real power behind these winds. This will be a common sight in Dexter over the next few days after the worst tornado anyone here has seen in decades. Dave Turner stood on his front porch as the storm came through and gave him quite the start.
You know, we live right next to the tracks, but there was no train coming. So when they say it sounds like a train, they're not kidding.
And take a look around me again. Like I said, roofing material everywhere, branches down. We're here at the railroad crossing just behind me here. And one of the crossing arms, the big heavy plastic arms that block traffic, that thing snapped like a twig. It's lying on the ground next to the track, attached only by a wire. So there is a lot of damage all over this area. It's going to be a long time before they get this thing back the way it was. Live in Dexter, Rod Maloney. Devin, back to you.
All right, Rod, and we just heard that phrase that you so often hear in tornadoes, that it sounded like a freight train. Well, we just had a train go by. A tornado is much louder. The business behind me here, the Dexter Mill, is just one of a number of businesses that have a lot of damage to go along with the residences that you just saw. Tim Pamplin of the Night with the Night Cam has a look at that.
The village of Dexter, population 2,000. There was a laundromat here, the only one serving the village. Now it's been reduced to a pile of rubble. The car wash next door didn't fare too well either. Co-owner Greg Ash.
We were just starting to have it pay off.
Sprightly man as he clambers on top of these washing machines. His job? Empty the coins.
But oh well.
It's kind of an old school chap, this Greg.
I'm trying to get it before the villains do.
Emptying the coin containers from his now open-air laundromat. True businessman, counting his coins.
Oh, good.
Tossing the rafters so he can get access. The laundromat sponsored the local Little League team.
That's
2
the-
blocks
that's our
away,
other partner.
they found the pictures that once hung on the
Peter and
walls
Cheryl
here.
Cap.
Greg tells me he's grateful no one was hurt here. It's only bricks and mortar. It can be rebuilt, and they're going to do it quickly because the village of Dexter needs their laundromat. So back out here, you see Greg and his 2 business partners over there assessing the situation. As I come around here, you'll see the heavily damaged car wash. This little corner of North Dexter is going to get rebuilt thanks to the tenacity of businessmen like Greg Ash. That's the scene in North Dexter with the night camp, Tim Pampin, Local 4.
Yeah, it is amazing how quickly the rebuilding and the efforts to get things back together start. The neighborhoods I've been walking in tonight, you can hear just like that the chainsaws and the hammers already pounding away here into the night. Now, if you were with us on Local 4 earlier this afternoon when all of this first broke, you know, as the warnings came out, Chuck Gatica was urging people here in Dexter to take cover. Others, though, were out and about and saw it all as it rolled into town. BC Onalieri has their point of view. BC?
Hi there, Devin. Yeah, I spoke with a Dexter resident who said when the weather changed, he knew instantly that something was headed his way. So he looked out his window. He went home, he looked out his window, and he not only saw 1 tornado, but he saw 2 headed his way. The sky turned dark and heavy rain came down hard with 1/4-inch size hail. And in a matter of minutes, the tornado siren sounded off in Dexter.
Scary as hell. That's all I can say.
Larry Brennan, who lives in a subdivision off of Fleming and Carriage, looked out his window and saw what appeared to be 2 tornadoes. He immediately took cover.
Well, grab the cat, go downstairs and start praying, because I've never seen anything like this.
It's just a little overwhelming right now because you can't see, we have no power, and I don't even know where we're going to begin tomorrow.
And this is the devastation left behind. Homes ripped apart, massive trees uprooted, and power lines snapped in 2. Some stand to lose nearly everything.
Ripped the deck off the back of the house. I got 2x4s that are impaled through the roof. I got water coming through the bedrooms upstairs.
There's people down south that went through this 2 weeks ago, and there were lives lost. And my husband and my children are fine. Our neighbors are fine, and that's all that matters. This is all replaceable. It doesn't matter.
And that's what we heard a lot of this evening. A lot of people saying, you know what? Thank God we're still here. It's important to note that there were some close calls with some injuries, but as far as we know in that area specifically, that no one was seriously hurt. Back to you.
So right, BC, and like you, most of the people that I ran into tonight counting their blessings, and people in this neighborhood are doing exactly what you at home would be doing in yours if this had happened, walking around, taking stock of your friends and neighbors and making sure that everyone's okay. And Chuck, I think in large part, it is amazing that no one was seriously hurt, no deaths in all of this, and a lot of that has to do with the early warning that people got. The sirens here worked, and of course, you were very busy this afternoon.
Devin, we really were able to see what we call hook echoes on radar. That was helpful. Take a look at this video before I give you a blow-by-blow of where things are now and where we're headed. This was the tornado, one of the tornadoes tonight. 3 of them, one in Ida, not too far from Monroe. One, of course, coming out of the Dexter area, moving toward Ann Arbor. That's where I think we're looking at now. And another farther north in Lapeer County. A true wedge tornado causing the kind of damage you see. We'll talk more about where that may rank on the Fujita scale of estimated wind damage. So let's begin. First of all, things have really calmed down. We're at 60 degrees right now. Still some clouds around. Humidity is high. We'll talk more about that later as it leads to some fog. We're not the only ones in the country with issues. We had our own eruption of severe weather, and we also had several clusters, one to the south here, one farther south and west, of thunderstorm activity producing warnings. But what we've really been watching all through the day is what was happening in southeast Michigan. These green counties that are illuminated, those are flash flood warnings. There were some places that saw indeed 3, 4, approaching 5 inches of rain, and that is causing grief. The gray shaded counties for the west side of the state, where we're looking now, that's actually for an advisory for fog. When it comes to Doppler radar, we're also able to track lightning strikes. This is in the past hour. 9,300 lightning strikes on just that map alone. And now 4 Live radar shows what's going on. We're watching the showers and the thunderstorms end. Some of the heaviest stuff is now down to the south, still in Monroe County. And I want to take you down there just for a second, show you what's going on. As we zoom in, you can see this line of intense thunderstorms that's still all lined up down to the south, and that's where we've seen some of the heavier rain for the day. As we fly back on out topside, I'll show you again what we've had and where we have been. First things first, let's go. Let's see if it'll work there. Yeah, it will. Go back to the top side. There it is. And let's talk about the next frame. And this one shows us the past 12 hours of rainfall totals. This is really intriguing because what we were watching, we knew we had heavy downpours, and we knew what we were watching was something that was interesting because of the size of hail as well as the heavy downpours that caused lots of flash flooding. If you take a look down to the south, down toward Monroe, there is a bullseye there, as there is in central parts of Washtenaw County near Ann Arbor, where we had lots of flooding right away. You are talking about significant amounts of rain that moved through the area. So as we take a look at that area in there in the orange, 4.25 inches of rain. That's quite a bit, and that is not all. Again, central parts of Washtenaw County, we saw similar totals, 3-4 inches of water. Then when it comes to some of the storm reports, you can see all of these storm reports that dot the landscape. The red areas there indicating where we had tornadoes. This one was up around Lapeer County, not too far from Columbiaville, where we first found it, and they had 1.5 inch size hail. Then we had the other tornado that moved from Dexter. This one was moving southeast, again 1.25 inch hail reported at 5:42 this afternoon. Numerous reports of large hail. The other funnel cloud down to the south that turned into a tornado as well. So all kinds of grief. Our Mara McDonald has been out all afternoon in and around the Ann Arbor area as we're trying to find out what was going on there and who's been hit the hardest. Mara is now out live. Mara?
Chuck, take a walk with me. I want to show you something. Do you see this garbage dumpster? Well, it certainly doesn't sit on this lawn. Come here this way. You can see it. It usually sits in this pen over here. Floodwaters came up so fast and so hard out here, it floated the dumpster all the way up onto the lawn. Witnesses tell us the lightning strike was so loud the ground shook. The next thing anyone knew, this garage was on fire. Ann Arbor firefighters on the scene immediately, but power lines kept reigniting the blaze. They managed to get it out before it spread to nearby homes. We heard this before we saw it. A row of cars totally submerged by fast rising floodwaters.
It's just 15 minutes. Like we were seeing other side of the building, what is happening around. After coming this side, if I see my car, it's completely in water.
His red Camry beyond waterlogged. His attempts to start it weren't going anywhere. The waters rose fast. Park Place apartment complex owner Albert Perez was on the scene immediately. You see, this isn't the first time the storm drains have massively backed up.
It's an Ann Arbor problem, not a Park Place problem, but these are McKinley customers. They're very important to us, and we will be here for as long as it takes to make sure we take care of them.
Sewage-filled water invaded the lower level of this building, but anyone temporarily displaced is being taken care of.
We will make sure, despite the problems with the flooding in this part of the city, that we will take care of them. The Red Cross, who are long-term allies of McKinley, are here with us, and this will be all good before the end of the night.
Back here live, you can hear the sound of generators in the background. They are scraping the sludge from all that sewage-filled water out of the parking lot right now and trying to power wash it all away. So a very long night ahead here in Ann Arbor. Chuck, we are live in Ann Arbor. Back to you.
All right, Mara, this was one of several tornadoes that were spawned across southeast Michigan today. As I mentioned, down in Monroe County, we had other reports near Ida, funnel clouds eventually turning into tornadoes on the ground. Katrina Hancock has got that story for us.
I am standing about a half a mile east of Lewis Avenue and Ida Center Road. This house behind me was hit with a tornado at about 7:20 tonight. If you take a look at the video, this tree completely uprooted in front of the house. Now, there were 3 people in the home at the time of the tornado. Luckily, no one was hurt. Their dog actually was found a couple miles north of this house. Take a look at some video we shot on the side of the house. The siding has been stripped off and metal wrapped around the bush. But the most horrific scene probably is behind the home, where a car was actually flipped over, probably inside a shed, Wood scattered everywhere, just showing the tremendous force of the tornado that went through. The good news is, luckily, no one was hurt. The bad news is there's a lot of cleanup at this house. I'm reporting in Ida Township. Katrina Hancock, back to you.
Thanks, Katrina. And you can see there was a lot of lightning there. Take a look at some of the pictures that we got tonight. We were inundated with videos and pictures. This is from LaFontaine Chevy. Looking westbound, we were told by the GM of the dealership, and that is the tornado on the ground, as you see, approaching and moving through the Dexter area. Another perspective of this wedge tornado indicating the power of the storm. And we're going to be talking about that here in just a second, where this may wind up. The National Weather Service will have to send out personnel to observe how many tornadoes were indeed on the ground. We heard one gentleman earlier saying he thought there were 2. That's possible. These kinds of cells could well have produced more than 1. This is another different perspective of a different storm. That, I believe, was the Ida tornado. Not quite a rope tornado, but a whole different looking situation than what we saw to the far northwest in Dexter. And as you can tell, how scary this must be to be looking from your own subdivision, from your own neighborhood, watching as something is creating a debris cloud, realizing that that debris is indeed the roofs and shingles and lives of other people. Tons of reports of hail today. Early this morning, they started out being marble size. Then we had a break. We got some sun. Everything heated up, and we were getting reports from, oh, let's say Tremaine Ferguson, where we saw this. This is, you know, golf ball size. We had egg size. Somebody said they even saw a few baseball size pieces of hail falling from the sky. These thunderstorms were well developed. And then, of course, Justin sent us this picture showing again some of the different perspectives of the flash flooding, which was hampering some of the efforts. It didn't turn out to be rescue efforts, thank goodness. We don't have reports of major injuries and certainly no deaths. And I think a lot of that had to do with the warning systems, and people actually got a bit of a heads up, and we're going to talk about that just a little bit more. Whenever you see weather approaching, you can always get to us at clickondetroit.com. We've posted many, if not all, of the pictures we've received today, and some of the videos as well, which are just astounding. Now, before the National Weather Service gets out, and we're not going to second guess what's going on, Paul Gross and I and Andrew and Brandon have all looked at this debris. The debris we are seeing and the wedge of that large tornado that came through Dexter appears to us that it may wind up in this category of an EF2, the enhanced Fujita scale, to an EF3. It appears that there is significant damage. If it indeed winds up in this category, you're talking about winds that were at 165 miles per hour. That's not how fast the storm was tracking on the ground. These storms were very slow to move, maybe only 15, eventually 20 miles per hour. That's why we had a lot of flooding. The rain just kept pouring in places where it had already gotten. This is the wind that's swirling around within the tornado itself or the funnel cloud. So it will be interesting to hear from the National Weather Service or over the course of the next couple of days to see where we're going. Where we are short term now, again, we're at 60 degrees and we're doing okay. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about our forecast, take you through the future, and if you can believe it, even though it feels like spring, spring will spring next week on Tuesday officially. We'll throw it back to you.